NVIDIA believes that it provides so much value that even when the competitors' chips are free, it's not cheap enough. Let me repeat that. NVIDIA's CEO is so confident in the value they provide that even if its competitors' chips were free, it would not be cheap enough. Let's talk about it in today's episode.
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
I want to take a closer look at this keynote, and I'm probably going to do a few episodes on this keynote because Jensen shared a lot and a lot of great information. And if you want, definitely go check it out. It's at the Stanford Institute for Economic Policy, our YouTube page. And the keynote is about 55 minutes long. Jensen really talked a lot about his company and the future of AI. And today's episode, like I mentioned, I really want to take a closer look at one segment where Jensen mentioned that the value that NVIDIA brings is so high that even if its competitors gave their chips for free, it still would not be cheap enough. And what does Jensen mean by that? So what really drove this discussion was the interviewer asked Jensen what he thought about competition. And for NVIDIA, is being good enough being a threat? And the CEO has mentioned that, hey, look, NVIDIA has more competition than anyone. Both other competitors, some of their main competitors, for those that are not familiar, is AMD. AMD has the MI300X, which just got released and is kind of ramping up right now. Then it also has Intel, right? Intel has its Gaudi 2 that has gotten some steam, and then its upcoming Gaudi 3, which is also a form of AI accelerators. Outside of those two public companies, you also have various startup companies that are starting to have some form of AI chip. One of the most popular ones right now is the Grok, right, which is an LPU, the first language processing unit, which is really meant for inferencing of large language models. Not only does NVIDIA have other competitors, but their customers are also competitors. We have all these cloud server providers like Amazon building their Trainium chip, their Inferentia chips, which are meant for AI workloads. We have Google, who has the TPUs. Microsoft recently announced the Maya 100, which is an AI chip. And even Meta is developing its own AI chip as well. And because, like I mentioned, their customers are also their competitors, they are one of the few companies that showcase to their competitors, aka the cloud server providers, like I mentioned, the specs of their current chip, their next chip, and the chip after that. So NVIDIA is so confident of, hey, look, our customers are competitors and they're designing their own chips. But for them to want our products and to buy the future of our products, we have to showcase that no matter how hard you try, our next chip is going to be better. And the chip after that is going to be better than anything you provide. And a lot of these cloud server providers have built their own chips for very long times. I do believe Google, for example, their TPUs is over 5, 6, 7 years old right now, and they're still heavy dependent on NVIDIA's GPU in general. And Jensen mentioned that there are several advantages for this. But the main advantage is where you could build a chip to be good at one thing. Taking a closer look at Grok, the LPU. Computing in general is more than just one thing, and NVIDIA's GPUs are programmable, and software engineers continue to develop new things. The world continues to develop new things. So while most competitors are just good at one thing, they can't really be programmed to be good at something else. NVIDIA, on the other hand, since they are programmable, they can accelerate about anything: quantum, physics, fluids, particles, and just lots of different types of segments and computational need. Before we go any further, I just want to say thank you all for the amazing support we are getting in this channel. We're closing into 40,000 subs. That is insane. So if you haven't and you are enjoying the content, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button. Finally, if you want to support this channel a little bit more, check out my special offer at fool.com/Jose. Now back to today's episode. So we can see here that NVIDIA believes that accelerated computing requires a full stack of innovation. It requires optimization across every layer of computing, from the hardware itself, the system, to the software and algorithms, demanding deep understandings of the problem domain. And because NVIDIA has created this amazing platform, it has brought more developers and more AI startups to use their overall ecosystem. For example, developers in 2020 were roughly 1.8 million. Now it's 4.7 million. AI startups from were in 2020 were 6K. Now it's over 15,000. GPU accelerated applications in 2020 were roughly 700. Now is 3,200. And this platform overall creates this form of flywheel effect. And it all begins at the installed base. And what is installed base? Installed base is when a lot of people are using your platform one way or another, right? If you are a software developer and let's say in a phone business, you're only going to really much develop a software for two main platforms. The first platform will probably be Apple, and the second platform will most likely be an Android platform. The main reason is because the install base is so high on those players that it makes sense for you to focus on those two markets. Any other market and any other system might not make sense in the long term of things because you're going to be focusing too much on research and development and just the overall cost of something that might not give you any true rewards. And NVIDIA, when we take a closer look at accelerating computing, they are the true leaders in install base. So if they have a huge install base, you're going to have huge developers. When you have huge developers, you're going to have those developers create some amazing applications, which you're going to have more end users. Now, with more end users, you're going to need more computational powers. So you're going to need these clouds and OEM players to increase their computational speed. So they're going to scale up and buy more GPUs. Then that increase in revenue and increase in income is going to allow Nvidia to put more money in its research and development, and it's going to help accelerate the computational speed by innovating the next generation of chip. And then the flywheel continues. And like I mentioned, right now when we take a closer look at inferencing, Jensen during the keynote mentions that roughly 100% of inferencing of a lot of these AI companies right now are using NVIDIA's solutions because there's at the moment there's no real competition. So right now all the developers are really focusing in that market. So like I mentioned, NVIDIA is good at the general field of accelerated computing, and one of those subfields inside accelerated computing is generative AI, which is getting a lot of attentions. And so for a cloud service provider who has a world of different customers, someone in the financial market, someone in the industrial market, someone in the supply chain market, you can't really have a server that's only good at one thing. You're going to need to have data centers that are good at everything. Because imagine if you have to run 10 servers that are good at one thing and then 10 other servers that are good at one other thing, your total cost of ownership is going to go through the roof. Because not only is it the price of the chip, but it's the price of the energy, the price of everything else that we're going to discuss. So total cost of ownership is very, very important. And that's why most recently we've seen very big partnerships from a lot of these cloud service providers. We see AWS partner up really strongly with NVIDIA to develop new AI solutions. We even see a huge company in the data center market, Equinix, announced their private AI with NVIDIA DGX. So Equinix is the world's digital infrastructure company, announced a fully managed private cloud service that enables enterprises to easily acquire and manage their own NVIDIA DGX AI infrastructure for building and running custom generative AI models. So we can see people who buy and sell chips think about the price of the chips themselves. But NVIDIA is not just a chip company, they are a platform company. So for people who run data centers, they think about the total cost of ownership. Hey, does it make sense for me to have this LPU that is only going to be used for large language models, but I have so many other customers that need so other solutions. So I'm going to have a server for that, and then I'm going to have a server for something else. So during the keynote, NVIDIA's CEO mentions that NVIDIA's total cost of ownership is so good that even when the competitors' chips are free, it's not cheap enough. And that goes back to the price of the chips. Sure, you might be paying $30,000, $20,000 less per chip, but where you're going to be paying extra on electricity bill, on the networking solutions, on the kind of utilization rate, on everything else, it's going to be more expensive than if you just bought NVIDIA's premium product. And that is NVIDIA's goal at the end of the day, to add so much value that the alternative is not about the cost itself. And here we can see from this presentation how just the difference between classical computing and accelerated computing. For those that are not familiar, classical computing is pretty much a CPU only server. Accelerated computing has some form of accelerator chip, usually the GPU. In this example, an accelerated computing solution with only two GPU servers is more efficient than having a 960 CPU only server. So you're getting 25 times lower cost and 84 times better energy efficiency. Because imagine running all those servers instead of just running two of these racks in general. So we can definitely see the power of total cost of ownership for accelerated computing versus classical computing. But NVIDIA mentions that, hey, look, this is not just on classical computing, it's also versus our competitors as well. Like I mentioned, the keynote was very interesting, and I'm actually watching it a second time to learn more from Jensen. But Jensen is such a competitive person, and I am happy that he continues to run NVIDIA. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode and this overall explanation of why NVIDIA believes its competition is not good enough, even if they gave their chips for free. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Take care, have a good day, and see you next time.